Hey guys, this is Mr. Weimer, and I guess I'm gonna try this new feature out on Doceri and Enmodo and help you guys out as best as I can. So, anyways, this is going to be a series of 9 videos on Chapter 2. They're going to be pretty short, so don't go like, oh man, 9 videos, that's crazy. So I'm here just to help you get through some of the reading, since we're not going to be doing so much of it in class, and I wanted to maybe give you some of my insights and help. Okay, so first and foremost, I wanted to start off by talking to you about the previous chapter 1, and we found out about the prison door. And the prison door is a symbol in itself of a threshold. So I'm going to do like a little line. A threshold is basically like a door where that there's one side of the world, and it's like a border between one side of the world and another part of the world. So on one side of the world we have, which is the prison itself, represents society. Society. All right, society. So, and then on the other side, it represents nature. Nature. I really need to get a stylus because this is pretty juvenile writing. But anyways, and so we have this threshold. It is this door. And also, what we see here is a type of rose bud. Let's see here. And what we have here is this rosebud, this rose that transcends right outside this threshold. And this rose is supposed to be a symbol of a flower, the book itself. And though the book itself is part of society, you know, with language and whatnot. But there's also there's this transcendent beauty, a beauty that is beyond words, that is conveyed through the book. So that's what that rose symbolizes. All right, so let's go back to start with Chapter 2. And here we are. We're going to start off with the prison lane. Basically, it's a street. On one side of the street, there's a jail, and then on another side of the street, there's a scaffold, or like a stage where public executions and punishment is being held. Okay? So here we go. And we're going to start off Chapter 2, the marketplace. The grass plot before the jail in Prison Lane on a certain summer morning, not less than 2 centuries ago, was occupied by a pretty large number of inhabitants of Boston, all with their eyes intently fastened on the iron-clapped oaken door. So we see here the idea that iron and oaken door. So this is the good idea of you know, the oak is nature. Let's erase this here. The oak is nature, right? But also the iron-clapped represents this society, right, and this constriction. Amongst any other population, or at a later period in the history of New England, the grim rigidity that petrified the bearded psychosamoniges. These are people, this word right here I could barely pronounce, is basically somebody who can read facial expressions really well. Okay, of these good people would have argued some awful business at hand. It could have betokened nothing short of an anticipated execution of some noted culprit, on whom the sentence of a legal tribunal had but confirmed the verdict of public sentiment. But in that early severity of the Puritan character, an interference of this kind could not do so indubitably be drawn. It might be that a sluggish bondservant or an undutiful child whom his parents had given over to the civil authorities was to be corrected at the whipping post. It might be that an antinomian, or a Quaker, or other heterodox religious was to be scourged out of the town, or an idle or vagrant Indian, whom the white man's firewater had made the riotous about the streets, was to be driven with stripes into the shadow of the forests. So we see here that because the Puritans were just like pure crazy, like law-abiding citizens, they couldn't stand, there was a lot of things they couldn't stand as a society. And so just because, a bunch of people are standing in front of this the scaffold doesn't necessarily mean there's going to be an execution. It could be because some child's going to be whipped in public if they did not obey their parents or their English teacher, or if maybe also, and then also it could be because of religious reasons too. These are two different religious ideologies, or different ways of people looking at God, and because of that, they could be kicked out. And then another way is because there might be the Indians drank some white man's firewater. Basically, that's a euphemism for alcohol. So maybe some Indian drank some, alcohol and got crazy and started going crazy. And then there could be another possibility. It might be that a witch, like old Mistress Hibbins, the bitter-tempered widow of the magistrate, was to die upon the gallows. In either case, there was very much the same solemnity of demeanor on the part of the spectators, as befitted a people amongst whom religion and law were almost identical, and in whose character both were so thoroughly interfused that the mildest and severest act of public discipline were alike made venerable and awful. Meagre, indeed, and cold was the sympathy that a transgressor might look for, but such bystanders at the scaffold. On the other hand, a penalty which in our days would infer a degree of mocking infamy and ridicule might then be invested with almost as stern a dignity as the punishment of death itself. So basically, Hawthorne's here is saying that what we would consider probably something to be laughed at, the Puritans would have actually considered it a serious nature of crime. Okay? So this concludes video number 1 of 9.